Welcome to the Sound Gaming Podcast, a D&D conversation brought to you by Cascadia Gamers Alliance. I'm your host, Brendan Faulkner. With me is my co-host,
Kyle Morton.
Hey Kyle, start the show.
All right, I'm rolling an ish.
So there's a couple of podcasts that I listen to, and those are some that I'm thinking about modeling some of the things that we do. And I just want to kind of run that through with you now live while we're kind of talking about it so other people can kind of react.
Sure. And I have at least one in mind as well.
So right now we're kind of in a format that's similar to Reply All, which is a podcast where they take weird internet stories and they just investigate the crud out of them. And that's it's very conversational in tone as well, and it's just two guys who will pick up on a weird thing and discuss the heck out of it, find people who relate to it, and like interview them and get like little bites. They don't always have a plan when they go into it, which is lovely.
Whatever.
If you want to see a perfect example of that, there's an episode called Long Distance that I highly recommend, where he gets into like this kind of relationship. And I don't mean like romantic relationship. I mean like back and forth relationship with a guy out of India who worked at a call center that was set up to scam people about their computers.
Right.
Like it's that call that you get, like your iCloud has been compromised. Like that, it's that, like it's a company called Accostings out of India, out of Delhi.
Oh, that's fun.
He just kept calling back and trying to talk to the same guy, and like they eventually went to India to find the call center.
Oh my god!
Yeah, he let them connect to his computer to see what they would actually do. Like it was really kind of an interesting format, and that's one aspect of what I want to bring into this. Another one is a true crime podcast that I love called the Last Podcast on the Left, where they just kind of make fun of horrible things, and it's funny, and they look at kind of the disasters that happen and have some humor to it. That's also very conversational in tone. It's maybe a little bit lighter, even. While still maintaining that kind of like gravitas about, hey, this is a real thing that happened.
Nice.
Another one is Unqualified. They give unqualified love advice, which is similar to what we're doing.
Oh yeah.
I am not qualified to give advice about D&D.
Oh, that's great. Oh, that is great. I love this picture.
Yeah, and part of what they do is they Skype into people who have called in with questions about things. And that's an idea that I had as well for something that we could do.
Oh, we could totally do that.
Yeah, so
100%.
If you guys have things that you want to talk about, if you have questions about the game, if you have questions about even maintaining the relationships with people across the table, we are not qualified to tell you how to deal with it, but we will. We will.
We will definitely tell you our methods.
Yeah. So
your mileage may vary.
It's a great format as well. So those are three podcasts that I kind of modeled my idea of what a good podcast is.
All right.
Do you have any that you're currently listening to?
I have one.
Yeah.
I guess I've been listening to shout out to the Dungeon Cast, because they have put on a really good show. Not gonna lie, I kind of miss the Sage DM and think you should bring him back, but whatever, that's on you guys. I love their whole concept of a low entry point for people coming into the podcast. I imagine veterans and noobs alike have enjoyed the content they produce.
Sure.
They are a lot more of the planned out, this is what we're talking about, let's not stray too far.
Sure.
They don't always succeed at not straying too far, but it's fine. It's like, it's to be expected. It's impossible to touch on one thing you're passionate about when it ties to so many other things and not at least segue slightly into a sense of, okay, this is why we have to touch on this. Kind of the whole over-explanation of a backstory that they may or may not need.
Sure.
But it just adds to the concept, and it adds to the element of, This is that I've appreciated it. I haven't had any gripes about any of what they were doing, and like they obviously have found kind of their stride, and just the concept of they actually have kind of a very similar makeup. The guy who's been playing forever and ever, and then the newer guy who just recently started, kind of thing, and it's kind of cool because you get to hear the one guy, the newer guy, talk about his first look on. That's kind of one of the ways they introduce topics. So tell me, when you hear the word bard, what do you think? What comes to mind?
Sure.
And then so he goes, well, I mean, before like a year ago, I didn't even know what the word was. like, and then they go back and forth and break down the bard class. But that's the whole concept of that, and that's why I appreciate that podcast. Not at all saying that I want ours to be structured, but it's definitely something along those lines of having a low entry point so people don't necessarily have to have a ton of backstory knowledge so that we can talk in a way that at least requires a relatively low point of interest, if that makes sense.
It does. So speaking of kind of like introducing like concepts at kind of like an easy level, like another for lack of a better phrase, another mantra that we've had in or not in D&D Beyond. We don't represent them.
Maybe one day.
In Cascadia is the idea that anybody can DM, which that has been something that has been near and dear to our hearts. I know that if Stephanie were here, she would be jumping on this conversation.
Oh, 100%.
100%. So I just wanted to kind of run down a basic idea. The way that I describe kind of how to write a session is that it's like a 3-act play.
3-act play?
Yeah. You kind of have 3 things that happen in a session. And they can be any combination of a couple kind of core specific ideas.
Sure.
Right? You've probably heard of the 3 pillars before. I'm not going to go back into that. If you're interested in what the idea, like the kind of the mainstream idea of D&D writing is before, you can look up the 3 pillars of D&D writing, and there's lots of articles, lots of Reddit posts about that concept.
Sure.
So my idea is that it's a 3-act play, and when you come into it, you have either a puzzle, a fight, you have an opportunity for role play, you have maybe traps that you have to uncover, and you have maybe some either politics or what I call dominion level play, which is where you're just taking care of a thing. Like maybe you buy a tavern and you want to invest some time in how you take care of the tavern. Right? So you have those 3 things. You have 3 of those things, and you kind of build them into your game, and you set up specific opportunities. So let's say we're going to start with a role play opportunity where you have some NPCs. Then you have maybe a puzzle that you have to solve, and it leads you to a fight. Like once you have like kind of 3 things, 3 main points, 3 beats to hit in a 6 to 8 hour period of time, that's when you have a session ready.
So this is like more along the lines of more along the lines of like a one-shot planning.
Oh, this is how I plan sessions.
Oh, actual sessions too.
Yeah.
Okay.
This is how I plan weekly sessions. Is I think ahead of time, and I try to make time for them to do like one thing for 2 to 3 hours.
Sure.
And then you can kind of move to the next thing. And there's usually, because if it's an interesting thing, then that's about how much time people will throw at it before they're ready for the next thing to kind of come along.
You touched on there being 3 points.
Mm-hmm.
Obviously, that my immediate naming convention was to go to beginning, middle, end.
Yeah,
but,
or first act, second act, third act.
Sure.
That's the way that I think of it. So that you have kind of your build up for the day. You have your introduction to some concepts.
Okay.
Then you put them in jeopardy in the second act, right? And then by the third act, you can overcome and resolve. And that, like, if you start thinking about it like a play, you have kind of a more consumable format, I feel.
So, having virtually zero background in acting, drama, or anything like that, I'm not super familiar with the concepts of the structure of a play, even.
Sure.
So I understand acts.
You can think of it in I mean, everybody's seen a movie.
Right, yeah.
Right? So movies also follow either a 3 or a 5 act format as well.
Like so I have intro to issue. Like, this is why this thing is a thing right now.
Right, which is Star Wars: A New Hope.
Oh God.
Okay. Then you put people in jeopardy, which is Empire Strikes Back.
Okay.
And then you have the big kind of fight and climax and resolution, which is Jedi Returns.
I think resolution might not be an amazing word for it, because
you resolve the day's conflict.
Okay.
Right? And that day's conflict
so not a permanent resolution, but a resolution for the purpose of the reason it is a thing.
Yeah. Like, and by the time you get to the third act, that's where you can start having callbacks into the grander story.
Okay. That's okay.
Right? So, for instance, we once had a campaign here in this very house.
Yes, we did.
Where we had
Once Upon a Time
a fight on a 9-man Morris board, and that's a long setup that I can go through. But essentially,
we definitely need to do at least a subtopic on that setup. That was probably one of my favorite combats of that entire campaign.
Right. So at the beginning of it, everybody was interviewed, and they had to kind of reveal information about the various people there, and we had it set up in such a way that there was conflict between players already. Then we had a big puzzle that you guys thought was a fight.
I mean, whatever. Puzzle, fight, same difference.
Yeah. So there was that. That was the second act. That's where I put things in jeopardy. That's where I killed off the king. Well, he wasn't visible, but his control over the situation
was very relevant.
Removed. And then you guys had the third thing, which was arguing over the crown. And so that's exactly the thing that I'm talking about as far as setting it up into 3 acts, where you can consume a story. The crown was your tie-in to the rest of the overarching story.
Okay.
All right. So we kind of touched on a lot of the stuff that we had intended to talk about as well. There's one more place. We're an interesting group of admins. We have. Not to be too Liam Neeson about it, but we have a special set of skills.
Yes, we have a special set of skills, each and every one of us. We will find you and make you roll a d20.
Stephanie, she went to school for business. She's completely amazing at making things happen. She's the most visible, probably, I would say. Most of the posts that you see coming from Cascadia are coming from her. She takes time to write those all and to keep us all kind of engaged in the community, and that is something that we are very thankful for, that she spends so much time and thought and effort into Cascadia. And one day we will definitely have her on the podcast to talk more about what she does and kind of her vision of all of this, because she is absolutely critical. She's our third partner in all of this work. As far as you go, Kyle, you handle a lot of our tech side of things that people don't necessarily see or hear about as much, and I'd like you to talk about that just a little bit, if you wouldn't mind.
Yeah, absolutely. Anybody who knows me, or anybody who's spent any amount of time around me, will probably get a pretty quick understanding that I have a real passion around technology, and basically utilizing technology to, I guess, expand upon any passion that I'm currently into. And God, let me tell you, D&D is ripe for the taking.
Yeah.
Yes, it is. It really is. I have been working on a series of side projects myself. I have been creating several different digital entities, I guess you can call it, places that we can communicate externally from the Facebook group, because as much as I love the Facebook group, it can be a little cumbersome and a little confusing at times.
It
I
also
can't tell
doesn't
you.
reach everybody.
Yeah, and we actually have a lot of active members that were begrudgingly making a Facebook for the purpose of joining this group, which in and of itself speaks volumes for what we're doing, which leads me to a very good feeling about just the whole thing entirely. So I've been actually working on a couple different things. The first thing I am hoping to have, it's actually already live. You guys might not know this, but it's already live. If you guys ever get a chance to check out playcga.com, that's the word play and then cga.com. We already have a blog up and running. It's kind of sparse because, well, leads us back to our previous content. We would love some contributors. We would love to feature you guys on that blog. We will obviously be happy to write and happy to put content on there, but we don't want to be the only ones preaching. We want you guys to tell us how you run your games. Tell us your favorite dice roll. Tell us your favorite pastime involving insert D&D situation here. I mean, there's the odd, like, even if you've never written before, send something in. We can work with it. We can work with you. We can help you refine. Or if you ever wanted to have like a journalist type role, I am happy to delegate some journalism licenses out to users on that. It's a WordPress blog, so if anybody has WordPress experience and would like to contribute, let me know. Would be happy to kind of give you a tour, let you see what's going on. Realistically, that's kind of my current focuses, where they are. We are trying to elaborate into a lot more as far as the digital concepts. Obviously, we are currently streaming to Twitch. We will be creating a CGA specific, or it might end up being just sound gaming, Twitch channel, Twitch user account, because the reason we're using this one is just because it was easy and available and already set up. But for future, we will likely have future official Cascadia Gamers Alliance and sound gaming related material available through a specific place. So keep that in mind, and we will be doing that in the coming X amount of time.
I think we're going to put the roundtables on there too, right?
Yep, we're going to be live streaming all future roundtable discussions to the soon to be a thing Sound Gaming or Cascadia Gamers Alliance. Have yet to decide which way we'll go. Twitch channel, so keep an eye out for that, and that will be coming shortly. So it's just really fun for me, because this has always been a passion of mine, just investigating and exploring what can be, what could be, and now I have a purpose. One of the hardest things about knowing how to do something but not having something to do it for is you lose interest in the thing you're doing it for until there is a reason for it to be done.
Yeah.
This might sound confusing or like mumbo jumbo, but if you ever have been in a creative situation when you had nothing to be creative for, direct correlation.
Yeah.
So I've got a lot of metaphorical unfinished paintings, I suppose. But yeah, so in any case, that was the gist of what I had. That's what's to come for as far as technology goes. So yeah, definitely excited. If you guys have any ideas and they are technology related, let me know.
Yeah, so just to kind of put a button on that concept, as far as our functions go right now, Stephanie is kind of the glue. She's our day-to-day, like, boss.
She's a mommy CGA.
Well, I don't want to. I think she'd be offended if she was here and heard us say that.
Well, she is hearing us say it.
She's amazing, and this wouldn't be getting done if it weren't for her on it. Like, just functioning and all the events going off without a hitch. That's Stephanie's role. Kyle's role is if he wasn't for him, we wouldn't be doing a podcast. You know, like he does like the technology side. Like I have a voice and I like to talk, but you wouldn't be hearing it if he didn't have this awesome mic set up in this apartment right now, and we wouldn't have the opportunity to take CGA to a greater place. My role is, I don't know, how would you describe it?
That's hard to describe. You're the seed.
Okay.
You created the concept that is enabling you to seek the help of those that have the ability to enact things that you would like. Mm-hmm. You're the creative... I don't want to call it juice because that just sounds weird, but you're kind of at the creative core of why CGA exists.
Thanks.
And Stephanie is able to hone the creativity into actionable, okay, let's do this. And then I come in and be like, okay, here's the what we want to do. You have the creation of it, and I'm going to help put it into play in an aspect that helps us spread better, like into a Twitch channel or into... And I mean, any one of us not being part of it, I don't think it would have quite... I don't know. I don't really want to say that it wouldn't be a thing, because I'm sure you guys would have, like, without me, I'm sure you guys would have trekked along and figured it out. But the way that we are configured currently is really... It's nice because we all know that we have a special contribution, I suppose. Sure. And none of us are... We're all trying to contribute as best we can in the ways we are capable of doing so. Yeah. And it creates a nice kind of a trinity, not to make a religion...
It's a good balance.
It's a good balance.
It's a good balance.
We balance each other out. It's been working. And you guys are inside and a part of the result. We are CGA today because of... Brendan wanted to play, and Stephanie wanted to play, and I wanted to play. And guess what, guys? We all get to play now, and that's largely because of this. So I'm very grateful, and I like where it's going. I like where it's been, and I'm excited to see where it continues to go.
Yeah. So we're your three admins, and we care about you, and we want to... that saying that a rising tide lifts all boats. We want to see you guys rise up too. Like, for as much as we're doing, and as much as we're trying, and as much as we think about this on a daily basis, almost obsessively sometimes.
Oh God, yeah.
It's our passion. This is just such a huge part of our lives at this point, and thanks for being there to participate and being there to listen. And we're going to be asking you guys for more. We're going to be asking you guys to become awesome and be contributors, and to be our friends, and to be a part of this thing that we're making, whatever it ends up looking like. We have ideas right now. We're kind of in a refinement process where we're taking what we already have and making it a lot better. For a while there, we were just throwing out the craziest things that we can to see what would come back from it, and this is where we ended up, and it's been good. We have a couple of things that you can do to help us out, and we definitely are at the point where we feel like we need help. We need and want your support. And if you like what's going on, if you like CGA, if you think that this could be like a bigger part of your life, volunteer. Buy a t-shirt. We have t-shirts for sale. We like the design that Rob made for us. He won the design contest a while ago. It's the same logo that you guys are kind of seeing flash on Twitch. And the shirts are $20. They're black with white logo right now. We have ideas for cooler merchandise later on. I'm going to get a hat out of this.
Oh no, plot twist, we had 100% tried to get a hat made
Oh, okay.
for like when we introduced the shirts.
Yeah.
But it just didn't pan out.
Yeah, we even have stickers. Stickers are available too. We can get you guys some logos for your car so you can proudly proclaim that you're a gigantic nerd. And when people ask about it, hey, maybe you can bring some more attention to this family that we're kind of bringing together.
Let's be real though, being a nerd is awesome.
It is. It's a good time to be a nerd.
I have never ever felt so proud to be something that typically had such a negative connotation to it.
Yeah.
Like, and it doesn't anymore. That's the best part.
Yeah, it's because we are at the point in our lives where we can bring this up. We can make it classy. We can make it cool. Like, there's just an amazing thing that happens when you start getting creative, and that's what I want. That's what I want from you. That's what I want from our listeners. That's what I want from Stephanie, is just to keep taking that creativity, whatever it looks like, whatever your skill is, whatever your passion is. If you sew, if you bake, if you make minis, if you paint, whatever it is, just...
If you create really creative characters.
Yeah.
Like, I would love to do an entire episode on really interesting creators. Interesting characters.
Yeah, we're planning an event soon where we're going to be having people switch characters in the middle of the session every 15 minutes.
Yeah, that'll be fun.
That's one area. Hey, if you have ideas for characters, let's talk about that.
Right.
Let's see what we can do to kind of blow our DM volunteers' minds as they kind of have to switch things around and everybody gets a little schizophrenic. It'll be a whole lot of fun, a whole lot of craziness going on there.
It's not schizophrenia, it's speed dating.
It is based on the idea of speed dating because it's our Valentine's Day theme for our one shot in February. Which will be 1 year. 1 year of getting together. I'm so excited.
I know.
It'll be 1 year on the 10th.
1 year on the 10th.
Yeah. And then also we have a Patreon.
We are fully ready to take this group to the next level, refine what we have, and over time create as amazing content and availability and just all of the ideas that's in Brendan's head and then in everybody else that has contributed. We have a lot of potential. The only problem with that is that a lot of the times it just comes down to a restriction of, well, we can't afford it yet. So we're making available a Patreon. No obligation, but if you feel you want to give back and you don't feel like you want to put your own efforts out on the line, we do offer the Patreon. There's obviously no minimum. Well, there's a Patreon minimum, I think, of like $1. Again, we're not requiring it. We're not really asking for it. It's a mention for if you feel you want to contribute in a way that is simple and ongoing. That would be your prime example.
Yeah. Also, tell your friends about us. Let them know kind of who we are, what we're doing. Like us and subscribe on YouTube would be great as well. This podcast, as well as our quarterly videos, are available there. And we're just gonna keep doing everything that we can to make this be amazing. We talked as we continue to grow, and as we continue to make things that nobody's ever heard of before. Between Discord RP and the bowling event, I've made 2 things that I've never seen anybody do in the past year, and I would like to be able to continue to work on that, and I would like to be able to continue to bring you guys new things, and
just like any growth of any entity, with where everybody, I feel, would want to see this place go, it will eventually require more than just what we can afford at that time. So keeping that in mind, we are obviously not asking for just donations. We have the t-shirts. We're going to be having, we have vinyls and stickers available. And of course, we will continue to offer really fun events that we will not charge for.
Ever. Yeah.
Come, have fun. So, that being said, There is actually a few people, not admins, but admins as well, that I actually want to reach out to, and we want to reach out to and thank specifically, who have made a lot of what we do possible or just helped in a really, really big way. For starters, we've already mentioned him once, but Rob.
Thank you, Rob.
He has done amazing things. I don't, like, if you guys aren't on the Twitter, you need to be. It's at Cascadia GA, and no, that doesn't stand for Georgia. So every Wednesday, we've been having a series of evil wizard confessions, and they are on point. You really need to check them out. And those are all created by Rob. So, and obviously, we touched on this earlier, but the logo, and all of the logo variations that you've seen cycling through this video are also 100% Rob. He's an amazing guy. He made some stuff for the campaign.
Yeah, he actually was working on minting coins for our con.
Right. Like, he's creating actual, like, metal coins and designing. Anyway, he's a great guy. And we also want to reach out to Tarye. Has been a really big advocate for the group recently.
Yeah.
Advertising for us everywhere he goes. Big, huge shout out to the locations that have been hosting us lately. Doug over at Terracrux has been very kind in allowing us to use his space. The staff up at West Coast Sports Cards, newly added location to our choice of venues, but looks like we're not going to be changing that one up anytime soon.
Yeah.
And then, of course, Jesus and the awesome staff over at the Tree Fort has been absolutely fantastic in garnering kind of this whole new phase of where we plan on taking CGA. So, obviously, Stephanie's been a huge help, and Brendan and I, we are doing, everybody of the admins is doing their absolute best to make sure we can get this going to where it needs to go. So we want to truly thank you, and everybody who comes to the events, who comes to the one-shots, participating on Discord, or even just throwing up an interaction on Facebook. The littlest things go the longest way. Yeah. So we appreciate you all.
I want to just also mention Chris Hunt.
Oh, yeah.
Thank you, Chris, for being kind of a sounding board for all of my crazy ideas. When I get those like kind of manic creative upswings, he's been there for me, and he works on. He has a Kickstarter called Shipworks, and he does scale models for boats for D&D. Beautiful designs. He also prints minis. He has a bunch in his store, and he has a bunch that he just does custom. So if you have custom requests for minis, he does them. Thank you so much, Chris, for everything that you've done. He's made minis for me. He made a huge rust monster for me once. Just absolutely awesome.
Nice.
As well as my custom. I have a unicorn that's based on the model from Borderlands. Yeah, for Butt Stallion, the entirely diamond.
Yeah, that's
so
awesome.
I have that minifig, and the so just kind of the creativity that's out there, and just the fact that he's been generous and shared that with us, and also he's another creative entity that's in the group that is making things on a daily basis. He just got a bank loan, actually.
He's making things happen, for sure.
Yeah.
He's making movements, and we look forward to seeing how there's a lot of that going on.
Yeah. Yeah. If
and
you guys have stuff that you're working on, let us know. We will be more than happy to kind of give you a shout out here on the podcast. Please share what you're working on. We have a weekly interaction on Facebook where we ask people to share what they're working on, and we want to see it. We want to see how cool you are. Let us know.
And thank you once again for tuning in to this week's episode of Sound Gaming Podcast. We'd like to make one last thank you to everybody who showed up at the January not the January one shot, but the January social event where amazing things took place. We reached our 200 person benchmark, as well as just meeting a lot of new people. I want to shout out to Kyle, who made his way down from Everett. You have to really be in the area to know just how big of a deal that is, but we greatly appreciate you coming down. So thank you again. Stay tuned for next week, where we will get to touch base on some of the really fun topics coming up here in the coming months. Thanks, and talk to you next week.